The NBA season begins tomorrow if you were in Australia. So just like last year, I've decided to do my predictions on YouTube. Not sure how the views are going on this. Not sure if you guys actually want to see this. But for me personally, big NBA guy. It's probably my favourite sport to watch. And I just want to talk about it on here. Get my predictions out there for the season, for the standings for the season, for each conference. My playoff predictions, and then my end of season awards as well. And I want to go back at the end of the season and see how close I am. So this video is for me just as much as maybe it is for you. Before we get stuck into this video and before I let you know all of my predictions, I want you guys to comment down below who your NBA champion for this current season that's about to begin is going to be and who your finals MVP prediction is. So make sure to comment that down below as well and let me know, and then we can compare it at the end of the season. I'll pin you in the comments or something if you get it exactly right. So make sure to comment that down below. And also make sure to subscribe to the channel. Mostly doing game day vlogs for cricket and stuff, but sometimes I venture out and do things like this. Let's get into it. Sure. And we'll start off with the Eastern Conference teams. I'm not going to go into too much depth when it comes to each team. I'm just going to give my quick predictions and then we'll go over it into the future. But I'm not an NBA YouTuber or podcast or anything. So if you want to actually listen to people that know what they're talking about more so in depth, go listen to like Through the Wire or something like that. Watch Kenny Beecham on YouTube. So I'll just give you some brief reasons behind why my predictions are what they are. All right, so my predictions for the 15th spot in the Eastern Conference, so dead last, I'm going to go with the Charlotte Hornets. As much as I like LaMelo Ball, they just don't seem to improve. They never seem to get better. I don't know, like if it's a cultural thing there, but every player there just seems to regress when it comes to their basketballing ability, apart from LaMelo, but he's had health issues in the past, been injured. If he can have a full healthy season, maybe they can push for like the 13th seed. But right now, I've got them sitting at the 15th spot on the Eastern Conference standings. Coming in at the 14th seed, I'm going to go with the Orlando Magic. Yes, they have Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, but I just don't see him improving that much more than any other team on this list. They've still got a couple of years to develop. They've got a pretty young team. Markelle Fultz is getting better as a point guard for them, but they've got a lot of guards on that team. Suggs, Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz. They really need to sort of figure out what they're doing and just get a bit more chemistry behind them. I think they will improve on last year's win-loss total, but yeah, I've got them sitting at the 14th seed. 13th seed might be a hot take, but I have the Toronto Raptors. They've been regressing pretty rapidly over the last few years. There's only so much Pascal Siakam can do. They lost a few players in the free agency period as well. So, yeah, I think that come All-Star break and the trade deadline, I think they will look to offload OG Anunoby and maybe even Siakam and just fully commit to the rebuild. They've got a new coach as well, so I can see this year just being a full rebuild year and just buying into sort of the Scotty Barnes sweepstakes and letting it be his team, taking it off Siakam. And yeah, I've got them at the 13th seed. 12th seed, I have the Washington Wizards. My boy Jordan Poole, who used to play for the Golden State Warriors. That's my team. I do like JP3, but I don't think he's enough to boost them up the standings. So I'm going to have them at the 12th seed. I think he'll have a really good year. I think he'll probably average like 25 plus points per game. And with Kuzma as well, they might be fun to watch at times, but I don't think they really have enough to actually win a good amount of games. And based on the way Jordan Poole plays, even if he does average 25 plus, he's throwing up bricks. Like it's going to be on low efficiency. In the 11th seed, I have the Chicago Bulls. They just don't improve. They keep signing like Vucevic. They've kept DeRozan. Levine clearly wants out, but they're not really letting him go. I feel like they might trade him by the deadline. So yeah, the 11th seed, I'm not going to speak too much of them. They lack guard play. Caruso, good defender, but if Lonzo was back, I'd put him a little bit higher because when they actually had a full team and Lonzo played, they were the number 1 seed, not last year, the year before, and they actually looked pretty good. But without that sort of leader and that quarterback of the team, if you will, they just don't really have a direction. They don't have a good flowing offense, so I've got them at the 11th spot on this standings list. Right, now we get into the 10th seed, which is the beginning of the play-in spots. So if you don't know how the playoffs work, The top 8 teams of each conference split up and they play each other in their own separate conference, but before that can take place, there is a play-in tournament. So it's the 7th seed, the 8th seed, the 9th seed, and the 10th seed. So 7 will play 8 for the 7th spot, and 9 will play 10. Loser is eliminated. The winner will play against the loser of the 7 and 8 for that final 8th spot. So with the 10th seed in the East, I have the Detroit Pistons. I think they've improved. I think Wiseman is a good addition from the Warriors once again. Took a little bit of gelling last year, but they're looking better. They're going to have a full year of Cade Cunningham. Hopefully he's back healthy and playing. Jalen Duren looks good. I think they'll improve on last year, and making the play-in would be a massive achievement for them. They did pretty well in free agency as well, picked up a few good role players, and that's my 10th seed. The 9th seed, I have the Indiana Pacers. I think they were a good team. Last year, they sort of hovered the first sort of 21 games of the season. They were in the 4th and 5th seed range. Then Halliburton got injured. They really dropped off. Hopefully, they have a full healthy year, but I don't see it being too much. Might be enough to scrape into the play-in and maybe even get one of those playoff spots. But overall, they're not. I don't think they're better than any other team that is still to come on this list. So I've got them at 9. The 8th seed might be a little bit of a hot take as well. I've got the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, last year they lost KD and Kyrie, and the year before they lost James Harden. Ben Simmons, I like Ben Simmons. I really hope he can actually get back to playing a good standard of basketball. He's probably not going to get back to that all-star level, all-defensive player type level, but production-wise, I've been watching the preseason. He's only been playing 15, 20 minutes per game and probably averaging 8, 8, and 8. So if he can stay healthy throughout the year and not get the yips again, I feel like he can really contribute to this team and help them out. They've got a good team of, no real stars, but a good team of solid role players. Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Ben Simmons, obviously. I think they just really complement each other well. They've got, it's going to be a very defensive-minded team, so I don't know where the offense is actually going to come from. Mikal last year in his few games with the Nets after the trade of Kevin Durant did pretty well and went up to scoring 25 points per game. So I think they have the ability, and that's why I've got them sitting at the 8th seed. The 7th seed, I have the Atlanta Hawks. Last year was a bit of a struggle for them adjusting to the whole DeJounte Murray and Trae Young experiment. I think with that year under their belt and a full preseason under their belt, they're going to come out with something to prove. Trae Young definitely has something to prove. He had an off year last year. Even though he still scored a lot of points per game, his efficiency went down. He got a lot of criticism, and I think this year he's going to want to sort of back that up. So I've got them at this 7th seed. 6th seed in the East, I'm going to have the New York Knicks. They surprised a lot of people last year, knocking out the Cavs in round 1 of the playoffs, and then also in the second round, not as good. They come up against the Miami Heat. I think everyone actually backed the Knicks. The Knicks were favourites in that series after what they did to the Cavs, and obviously Miami only scraping in through the play-in. But if you watched last year, you know Miami ended up making it to the finals, and they just upset every single team they came across. So I've got the New York Knicks at the 6th seed. Speaking of the Miami Heat, coming in at the 5th seed, I have the Heat. Obviously, they made the finals last year. No knock on them, but as a regular season team, I don't think they really give it their all. Their offense lacked a lot last year in the regular season. They were a very low-scoring team. Jimmy Butler, kind of a superstar in the playoffs, but in the regular season, he kind of just coasts along. They unfortunately didn't get the players they wanted over the offseason. They didn't get Dame. That was the big one they wanted. They allowed a few players like Max Strus and Gabe Vincent to walk in free agency. So realistically, they didn't actually do anything. They lost players, if anything. But they finished in the 8th seed last year, and I've got them at the 5, and I think that's putting enough respect on their name. All right, the 4 seed. This is where we start getting into some home court advantage territory. I'm going to have the 76ers, Philadelphia 76ers. Looking at it now, it's hard to gauge because obviously James Harden has requested a trade. He does not want to be there, but they're playing a bit of hardball. They want to keep him on the team. They want to make him play. And I don't think he's the type of player, although what he did in Brooklyn and everything else says differently, I feel like he's still going to rock up. He's still going to play. Along with last year's MVP, Joel Embiid, I think they can be the 4 seed if they have a full healthy year with James Harden and he actually commits to playing. Even without James Harden, they might be able to trade him for some good pieces, let Tyrese Maxey run the point, and maybe he'll really flourish. Because in the preseason games, Maxey has been playing very well, and we already know that he's a dynamic scorer when he gets the chance. So I have the Philadelphia 76ers at the 4. Coming in at the 3 seed, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell's first year last year with the Cavs was a success. They did get bounced in the first round by the New York Knicks, but I think that was a good learning curve. Maybe the lights were a little bit too bright for that young team. They probably overachieved realistically. And this year, I think they could finish as high as the 3 seed. Unfortunately for them, they'll be going up against maybe the Knicks again if they finish the 6 seed. So hopefully not a redo of last year, and they can actually make it a competitive series and maybe even pull out the win and move on to the second round and get that little bit more extra playoff experience under their belts. But currently, I think they're going to bounce back. I think Donovan Mitchell is going to have an all-star caliber type of season, and they will finish the 3 seed. Now, the top 2 seeds of the East is where it's really a toss-up between the Bucks and the Celtics. Both teams improved drastically over the offseason. The Bucks obviously ended up getting Damian Lillard. They traded away Drew Holiday, which is a massive loss on the defensive end, but gaining an all-star, one of the best point guards of all time, especially in Portland Trailblazers history, Damian Lillard, to play alongside Giannis. He's never had a player of Giannis's caliber next to him, so I feel like those two as a dynamic duo is going to really improve their chances of winning. And still got Chris Middleton, who had a down year last year. He might be able to bounce back. Brook Lopez was stellar last year as well, so I think they're banking on Lopez. He's going to be a big part of their success this year. If he plays at the level they played at last year, they will be a very tough team to beat. But currently, I have them sitting as the 2nd seed in the East. I think come playoff times, they will switch on, but regular season, I think they'll do just enough to end up as the 2nd seed. And who knows what they'll do in the playoffs, but we'll get to that after this is completed. My number 1 seed in the East is the Boston Celtics. They improved over the offseason. They managed to get Kristaps Porzingis to play their center role, which they were lacking a little bit. They did trade away Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies, but they got lucky and they ended up trading for Drew Holiday from the Bucks, but they got him from the Portland Trailblazers in another deal there. Got rid of Malcolm Brogdon. No real loss after last year, but they have been looking good in the preseason, and Porzingis especially has been looking very good in the preseason. So I think you got Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, Drew Holiday. Those 4 players themselves will get you a lot of wins in the regular season. We'll see how they go come playoffs, but regular season-wise, I think the Boston Celtics will finish on top of the East. That is my prediction standings for the East Conference. Now let's get into the Western Conference, a very stacked Western Conference, if I do say so myself. So this is going to be tough. There are going to be a lot of teams on this list that could make the playoffs and the play-in. Someone's going to have to drop out, so this is literally just my opinion, and it's all based on if teams have healthy seasons. So let's get straight into it. At the 15th seed in the West, I'm going to have the Portland Trailblazers. They lost Damian Lillard, massive. He's the only reason they really won any games last year, and they still didn't even make the play-in. You lose him. Obviously, they got a lot of role players in the trades and everything like that, and a lot of draft picks, along with Scoot Henderson, the number 2 draft pick last year, or this year, going into this season. I think the direction they're going is clearly a rebuild, and they want it to be Scoot's team. I feel like they are going to be a good team. Scoot is going to be a very good player, but right now they're not going to want to continue to win. I think they want high draft picks. They want to keep building around these players, and I think they'll finish last in the West. The 14th spot, I have the Utah Jazz. I think they overachieved last year. They played very well for the first half of the season. They were in the playoff run. Everyone was thinking, what the hell's going on here? Lauri Markkanen was obviously an all-star, well-deserving, very good player. He achieved quite a bit. But I think towards the end of the season, they dropped off massively, and I have them sort of staying low on the standings as well now at the 14th spot. At the 13th spot in the West, I have the Houston Rockets. I think they've improved a lot over the offseason. They're obviously going to continue to develop their young players as well. Jabari Smith Jr., Jalen Green. They did quite well in the draft as well, picking up Cam Whitmore and Amen Thompson. They're both going to be pretty good players, but this year, obviously, they're not going to be superstar caliber players. I think they're good enough for the 13th seed. There's other teams in the West that are better. It's a very stacked conference. They also got Fred VanVleet in the free agency period, and also Dylan Brooks, the FIBA World Cup MVP. So I think they're looking good, but maybe not for this year. The 12th seed in the West, I have the San Antonio Spurs. Victor Wembanyama is looking amazing in preseason. I've been watching his games. the dude is the definition of a unicorn. They used to call Kristaps Porzingis that, but Vic is the real deal. I don't think people expected him to come out and be this good this early, but he can do it on both sides of the floor. He's scoring. He's very versatile. He's a shot blocker. It's unreal to see. I think the Spurs will manage him a little bit. They won't let him play back-to-back games. I don't think they really want to win now. So in saying that, I think they will get the 12th seed or thereabouts. At the 11th seed, this may be a little bit of a shock after last year's Cinderella story, but I have the Sacramento Kings. I think they're going to drop off. Last year, every player on their team overachieved. They all had career years. This year, I think teams are going to be more well prepared for them, and they're going to be able to sort of lock up De'Aaron Fox a little bit more. Keegan Murray, I'm looking for him to have a bit of a jump as well from his rookie year, but someone's got to drop out, and I just feel like the Kings last year definitely overachieved. I think they'll have a down year. I think teams are more prepared, and unfortunately for the Kings, because I do like the Kings, I think they're just gonna drop to the 11th seed and miss that play-in spot. Righto, the 10th seed, the last play-in spot, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't know. Every year I think they're going to be doing okay, but they just can't seem to click. They've got Rudy Gobert and Cat there. I feel like Cat might get traded mid-season. He would have more value than Rudy at this point. Rudy obviously regressing quite a bit. I think this is now Anthony Edwards' team. I think they can do enough to win games, but like I've said in this video already, the West is super stacked. I just can't see the Timberwolves being much higher than the 10th seed, so that's just where I'm going to have them. The 9th seed, I'm going to have the Oklahoma City Thunder. Very young team. Last year they looked really good. They did well in the draft as well. And they've also got Chet Holmgren, who they drafted last year. He's going to come back into the game this year, and after having last year out fully injured, he's been looking really good in preseason, just like Vic. He's a bit of a unicorn as well. I think Shea is going to have a good year. Giddey, obviously, J-Dub. I think this is their year to make the play-in and potentially even get that number 8 playoff spot. But right now, I've got them at the 9 seed. We'll see what they can do. At the 8 seed, I do have the Dallas Mavericks. They traded for Kyrie Irving late last year, and I think their offense is going to be fantastic. You got Luka, you got Kyrie. They're obviously going to put up points. They're going to be great, but defensively, they're lacking a little bit. They did do well in the draft getting Derek Lively. He's going to be good defensively for them, but he is only a rookie, so you can't really rely too much on that. At this stage, I think they can maybe get the 8 seed. Who knows? It could go haywire. Kyrie, you never know with him what he's going to do or why he's going to be sitting out of games. But right now I have them, if all goes well for them and they have a healthy year, Kyrie stays and he plays, I think maybe they can get to the 8th seed. The 7th seed, I do have the Memphis Grizzlies. I think last year they might have finished 2nd and they got bounced by the Lakers in the first round. If my memory serves me well, I'm not sure if it does. Probably should have did a little bit of research on that before doing this video, but I have the Grizzlies at the 7th seed. Ja Morant missing the first 25 games of the season definitely hinders their chances to skyrocket up the standings there. Once he gets back, hopefully he's healthy and is on the right track as well. He's obviously been suspended for the gun issues and everything like that. So he's not injured. He's going to be back after 25 games. Maybe Marcus Smart, Jaren Jackson Jr. can sort of hold the fort, Desmond Bane. But I don't know. I feel like in those 25 games, if they can stay like 12-13 or 13-12 around like the 500 mark, they might be able to scrape in, maybe get a little bit higher in the seedings come the end of the year. But right now, I have them sitting at the 7 seed. The 6th seed, so these are the playoff locks. I think these teams will make the playoffs. At the 6th, I have the Golden State Warriors. They have lost Jordan Poole, but they've gained Chris Paul, who is a veteran point guard, one of the best to ever do it. It'll be interesting to see what lineups they run. The team obviously is getting older. You still got Steph, you still got Clay, Draymond, Chris Paul, old again. But if you've got a team with Steph Curry, you're going to win games as long as they stay healthy. I think Clay's got a lot to prove. Wiggins, I think they're going to have a massive jump from Jonathan Kuminga based on preseason. He's looking unreal, scoring like 24 points per game or something like that. So they are looking good. It'd be good to see Chris Paul win his first ever chip as well, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure they've got what it takes to get that high. So at the moment, I have the Warriors at the 6th seed. Coming in at the 5th seed, I have the Los Angeles Clippers. The new rule in place with resting, you can't rest players on back-to-back games. So Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, they're going to have to play unless they have legitimate reasons to sit out, legitimate injuries. There's going to be loopholes there. Teams are going to say, oh, he's got a little calf strain, whatever it is like that. But I think in a perfect world, healthy, full season under their belt, I think the Clippers can finish 5th seed. I think last year I actually predicted them to win the entire thing. And yeah, they just had a bit of injuries. They couldn't really get it going. They've got Russ Westbrook now as well. Not that he's the same player that he used to be, but I really hope Russ has a good year after last year's experiment with the Lakers and then heading over to the Clippers. Yeah, I really rate the Clippers highly, but I've bought into them the last few seasons, and I can't continue to put them high. I need to see it. So right now I've got them at the 5 seed. Now, like I said, in a perfect world, this is in a perfect world where everyone stays healthy. I have the 4th seed, the New Orleans Pelicans. Last year when they played and Zion played, Ingram played, McCollum played, they were fantastic. They were up there in the standings. I can't quite remember how high they were, but they were hovering in that sort of 3 to 6 range. And then Zion got injured and Ingram got injured, and they just went downhill and downhill. So in the perfect world, if they're all healthy, I think Zion has an all-star year. We've seen when Zion plays, they typically win games. He's a force to be reckoned with. And with this prediction, this is based on a healthy year, nothing going wrong. I think they can finish as high as the 4 seed. Now at the 3 seed, I have the Phoenix Suns. They're obviously a good team. They've got Devin Booker, they've got Kevin Durant, they have Bradley Beal, but apart from that, they had to fill their roster up with a lot of role players. I think offensively, they're going to be very good, just like the Mavericks, but they got more offense definitely there, because games that KD might miss, you still got Devin Booker and you still got Bradley Beal, and vice versa when other players miss. They've looked okay in preseason. I think regular season doesn't matter to them. I think they're just going to coast by. They're going to win enough games. They're probably going to rest their players when they go up against teams like the Portland Trail Blazers, Orlando Magic, the Charlotte Hornets and the Wizards. And I think they'll still finish high on the seedings. They'll finish as high as the 3 seed. I don't know if they'll really care too much about getting higher. It's probably more about staying healthy until you get in the playoffs, and then you've got those proven playoff experienced players that just shine, like Devin Booker and Kevin Durant in the playoffs, and who knows how far they can go. But right now I have them at the 3 seed. The 2 seed, the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm definitely not glazing the Lakers. I'm not a fan of them at all. I actually hate the Lakers. Not a massive LeBron guy, and Anthony Davis as well, but this is in a perfect world where people stay healthy and everything works in their favour. Last year, after the trade deadline, they got rid of Westbrook and they brought in a few other players, and they really improved drastically. I think in the last month or two of the season, they had the number 1 defense in the league, and they got to the Western Conference Finals in the playoffs, and unfortunately for them, they came across the Denver Nuggets, who swept them. But in saying that, they lost 4 games to 0. It was very close margins in every game. Most games could have went either way. So it doesn't really give you a clear-cut answer of how good or bad they were. Most times you think, well, you got swept, you're pretty bad, but it was very close games. And yeah, Denver went on to win the finals pretty comfortably as well, so you can't really complain too much about that. But right now I have the Lakers having a very good season this year. I think they'll work out all their kinks, and if everyone stays healthy and LeBron can continue to do what LeBron does, which is bizarre given that he's been in the league for 21 years, he showed no signs of regressing. I have them at the 2nd seed, which means at the number 1 seed, I do have the Denver Nuggets. They're a very good regular season team. They're a very good playoffs team. Playing in Denver, I've obviously never played in Denver, but massive home court advantage being that high in the altitude, teams struggle to play there. That's why a lot of pro AFL teams and other teams around the league, around the world, travel to Denver and do their training there because of the high altitude. It helps with your breathing and everything like that. It's very, very tough conditions to play in, to train in. So I do have the Denver Nuggets finishing on top of the West. Jokic, you can't look past him. They're coming off a championship. Will they go all the way? Probably not. Back-to-back championships seem to be hard to come by. They're going to have a target on their back. Everyone knows now they can do it, so teams are going to want to beat that reigning champion, and this year's going to be very tough for them to go back-to-back, but I still think they will have enough to finish on top of the West. All right, so there are my predictions for the West standings and the East standings. Now let's get into a little bit of the end-of-season awards. I'll start off with the new award, which is the Clutch Player of the Year. Last year, De'Aaron Fox won it. This year, it's tough. You can't really predict it, but I'm going to go with Damian Lillard. I think that Giannis will divert those final shots to Dame, and I think he will definitely come in clutch for them. In the past, he's been a very, very, very clutch player. A lot of game winners under his belt, and I think he'll do it a lot easier this year with Giannis taking some of the load off the defenders, and Dame will be open a lot more of the time. So I'm going to go Dame Lillard with the Clutch Player of the Year. Most Improved Player. I'm going to go with Jonathan Kuminga from the Golden State Warriors. Seeing what he's done in preseason, I think he's going to take a massive step. And yeah, I think he's going to be noticed a little bit more. And you probably can't really look past him. I haven't looked at the sports bet odds or anything like that. I don't know who's favourite to win it at the moment. But my pure prediction is just Jonathan Kuminga. As simple as that. Rookie of the Year, who I mentioned before, I think it's going to be Victor Wembanyama. Chet Holmgren and Scoot Henderson a close second and third, but yeah, I think Vic's got it sewn up. Defensive Player of the Year, I think it's going to go to Drew Holiday of the Boston Celtics. Massive pickup for them. I think he's going to contribute to them winning a lot of games, and he's proven in the past that he is a top defender in the league, so I think this year he's going to get that nod, and he's going to be Defensive Player of the Year. Sixth Man of the Year, it's a tough one because we don't know what lineups are going to be out there. Always a good bet is like Malcolm Brogdon or someone along those lines, but I'm going to stay with the Warriors again, and it might seem a little bit biased, but based on what I'm hearing, Chris Paul was going to be coming off the bench, and he's going to be running that second unit. I think if Warriors can finish high in the standings and Chris Paul comes off the bench for the majority of the season, I think, although it is a weird award for Chris Paul to win, he probably doesn't want to come off the bench, I think he could definitely win Sixth Man of the Year. And without going through every team's roster and depth chart, first person that came to mind was Chris Paul for Sixth Man of the Year. Now we are at the final award, which is the MVP of the league. I'm not going to do like finals MVP or anything like that just yet, but MVP of the league, I think it's going to go to Nikola Jokic. He probably should have won it last year, got snubbed over Embiid. Embiid definitely deserved it, but between the two, very close. Could have easily went either way. I think this year there might be a bit of voters' remorse, and they might be like, oh, we snubbed him last year. But I think if they finish on top and he plays the way he has been playing his entire career, I think he will win another MVP this season. Now, my predictions for the NBA Finals. I think the Eastern Standard Finals, like the East Conference Finals, I think it's going to be the Bucks versus the Celtics, which is pretty self-explanatory given the 1v2 seed. But I think both teams are it's a toss-up between them two. Who knows? Honestly, between those two teams, like I said, it's a toss-up. It's a flip of a coin. But for the sake of picking someone, I want to say the Bucks, but I think the Celtics, with that Drew Holiday trade, I think they just get the slight edge over the Bucks. Drew's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He'll want to go hard against the Bucks and really show them what they're missing out on. Celtics got there a couple of years ago and lost to the Warriors. I think they want to get back there. Well, they definitely want to get back there. I think they can get back there with the new improvements to their team with Porzingis and Drew Holiday. So I'm going to go the Celtics making the NBA Finals over the Bucks. And for the Western Conference, I think it's going to be maybe... I'm going to say it's... Damn. This is actually tough. The West is so tough. Like, any of the top 8 can make it. I'm going to say the Western Conference Finals is going to be between the Denver Nuggets and the Phoenix Suns. And I think it'll be a very fun series to watch. I think the Denver Nuggets just scrape by and maybe beat the Suns in 7 with home court advantage. So I think Denver Nuggets win the West, and then we look at the Celtics versus the Denver Nuggets, which now I'm thinking about it, it's like both number 1 seeds, which I predicted, but you don't get that often. But I feel like those two teams will make the finals. But this year, I think I think the Boston Celtics. I feel like they'll have a higher win-loss record than the Nuggets, so they will get home court advantage come finals. And I really think that this year might be the Boston Celtics year. As much as I hate the Boston Celtics, I think they will win it against the Nuggets. It'd be hard to go back-to-back for the Nuggets. Obviously, they did it. Maybe they're hoping that Michael Porter Jr. and everything improves a little bit more and becomes a more reliable shooter. But my NBA Finals champion of the season 2023-2024 is going to be the Boston Celtics. And the Finals MVP I'm going to give to Jason Tatum, with Drew Holiday coming in at a close second runner-up. Righto, they are my NBA season predictions. NBA season starts tomorrow. Make sure to watch it. If you like the NBA, watch it. Give this video a like, a comment, subscribe as well. I'm going to maybe react to this video at the end of the season. So when we get there, we get there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. And yeah, thanks for watching. Brett.